Hey, hello, I'm Kråkan, also known as Corvus Cornix, and welcome to Yacc, yet another Crowcast where I pick a game I played for a week and then I talk about it. This week's game is Fran Bow for the PS4. It was released in 2023 and it's a psychological point-and-click adventure game developed by Kill Monday Games and also published by them. And there will be spoilers up ahead, just so you know, but first a little backstory. So I talked to a friend on Twitch about what games to play. And by the way, her name is Baskcube, go check her out. So the discussion went from Little Misfortune to the game Fran Bow, and I've known about this game for a long time, but I never played it. So she highly recommended it, and I went to the PSN store, and there it was. So before I start to talk about the game, I need to make a disclaimer, and this game is very dark, and it tackles some dark subjects such as rape, psychosis, and mental health. So if you're uncomfortable around those themes, you might want to stay away from this game. So the plot goes like this. It's 1944 and Fran Bow is struggling from some mental distress from finding her dead parents. And she runs out in the woods and she is captured or taken in to an asylum where she is treated for her psychological problems with some medicine that makes her see strange things like bloody walls, messages, and dark figures. And I don't know about you, but giving some experimental medicine to a kid is never a good idea. Fran is also looking for a missing cat, Mr. Midnight, and it's very relatable because cats can be very therapeutic. So when you start up the game, you select your language or preference, then you get a mental disclaimer talking about mental health, disturbing psychological imagery, and stuff like that, so you've been warned. Then you can select a new game, continue, options, or chapters. And then you get a black and white animation explaining the plot, and Fran wakes up in the asylum talking to a doctor about how she's feeling, and she's not very happy about it because she's been kept against her will. So you navigate the dialogues with left and right on the D-pad. She was choosing your options. Then you get a purse from your aunt and a letter, and then the doctor make you take some pills, and then you start to see blood on the wall, and Fran passes out. And then Fran has a dream about an entity threatening her if she tries to leave the asylum. And then her cat fades in, Mr. Midnight, and tells her that the medicine is the key to escaping the asylum. I mean, we will find out why this is important later. And then he will be waiting in the forest for her. Chapter 1, My Sober Day. So you can move around a cursor on the screen with the left or right thumbstick and also with the touchpad. And you interact with things by pushing the X button. Above Fran's bed is a journal. You can examine in that by pushing the X button, so you get her full name and status. So her real name is Fran Bow Dagenhart. She's 10 years old, female, in 1944. So I broke some curtains and I picked up a hook. So you get into the inventory by pushing the triangle button, and while in there you can use it by pushing the X button. And you can combine it with other items because it's a point and click game by the triangle button. And by pushing the square button you get some explanation what that item is. So you move between the different scenes or room by pushing the D-pad left or right. So I talked to this other kid that's in the asylum called Phil, and I talked to him about escaping. And not for long, this monster arrives from the walls, and it's the same monster from her dreams, telling her that she can't escape. So you can read about all the kids in the asylums and their history from their journals, and some of the entries get really, really dark. And not for long you run into Itward, which is a skeleton that is dressed in a suit and he has a top hat and he just melts to the floor. And if you think this game is weird, just wait until you get her medicine. And after some traumatic experiences, I found a box under Phil's bed and I opened it up and it contained a key to Fran's dressing table, bedside table. And in that drawer there was a picture of her family and a hairpin. And the hairpin is used to open up a lock, but it's like part of a combination of things you need to do. So I told the nurse that I broke the curtains accidentally, so she gets up from her desk, and that's your cue to loot her desk. So I picked up a cipher, 1 to 9, with corresponding letters from A to I. And you also pick up a box with a combination on it. So you need the code for hide. So obviously hide would be 8945. And in that box you find some pills. And this is where the game takes a very dark turn. In order to solve some puzzles later on, you need to take these pills, but they come with a great side effect. So every time Fran takes a pill, the room she's in turns into a bloody mess with monsters and weird creatures, and it's a nightmarish hellscape with very, very, very dark music. And it's actually really disturbing. So I took some pills and I went down a dark path underneath Fran's bed that wasn't there before. And there I overheard a discussion between the doctor and Fran's Aunt Grace I also found a needle which I combined with the hairpin to make a lockpick to open a door that leads further into the asylum. So I explored a bit and I found Adelaide, this young girl about 7. And this is where the game took a very dark turn, because if you read her journals, she has been sexually abused. She is just drawing with crayons, and you ask for a crayon, but she will not give it to you willingly. So you have to patch her up, and you do so. You get a green crayon, and she shows her your hands because the nurses actually restrain her while she's taking her medicine or something like that. So she is really bruised up, and it's very uncomfortable, to say the least. So I explore some more and talk to the other kids in the asylum. And I combined a rope that I got from a bathrobe with the curtain hook. And at this point I got really stuck, so I took a break and I came back the next day. So you need to combine this with a cane that you get from a kid that think he is a king. And the king wants a horse and a moot. So you draw that thing on a paper and you give it to him and he's happy about it. You get the cane, you combine that, and now you have a hook. So this hook thing is supposed to be used to grab a key from the guard booth. And by the way, this guard is really disturbing. Fran actually asked him if he can open a door, and he will do it for a kiss. And that's just, what the fuck, that's just disgusting. And when you use the pill in this area, it's hinted at that he is a pig. You know, it's a really gross. I think the nightmare landscape actually reflects some of what the real personality of the people are, and it's not uncomfortable to talk about that either, I guess. So in order to escape the asylum, you need a code, and I think it's combined with some dates you find on a piece of paper, and the code is supposed to be 2932, and I think Phil hints at this right before he locks you into the doctor's office. You need to escape the office, obviously, so you go down the ventilation shaft and you end up in the old part of the asylum where the doctor, to the surprise of no one, has been experimenting on these kids and basically lobotomized them. So they're locked up in their rooms, and they are, they don't have any high brain functions. It's really uncomfortable. Eventually Fran escapes the asylum and she runs into a hedge maze chased by a guard where she needs to avoid these shadow creatures, and eventually she crawls into the sewer pipe, and that ends the chapter. So in the next chapter you're out in this lonely forest where you encounter a huge ant and his pet beetle pig. And for some reason these characters appear without Fran taking her medicine. So what you need to do is you need to slaughter the beetle pig, but he obviously don't want to be slaughtered. But you pick up this axe and you chase him around until you figure out that it's not what you're supposed to do. So what you're supposed to do is you lure him with some blueberries, you cut him open, but it turns out the thing inside of the beetle is not actually the cat, because the ant told her, Fran, that the cat was eaten by the beetle thingy. So this rat crawls out and he wants to be calmed by this brush, and you do that and you take the brush and you comb the hair of that other creature. There's like a spirit that has heads that are hanging down from a tree. You comb its hair and it gives you a key. You also find a doorknob and a door, and you make a way into another place. And this game is just crazy, and it turns more like into Alice in Wonderland at this point. And now it's time for chapter 3, Double Persona. So you wake up in a creepy house and you have a cat hat for some reason. You sleep in a cat basket, and you explore the place, and it's a really creepy old house. I picked up everything, and now all of a sudden it felt like a real point and click. I picked up everything that I could in the kitchen. For some reason I could, so I did. And you are supposed to take all these things and make a recipe. So you find this conjointed girl. There were 2 girls turning into one because they were trying to make a spell of some kind. And she's older than you, so you have to say or do what she tells you to do, which is kind of stupid. But you have a choice here. You actually talk to a frog outside of the building. So Itward opens a window, you can go out and talk to him. So you get another recipe of what you're supposed to do to break this curse thing. And you also find Mr. Midnight at the top of the attic, and this creepy conjointed Alice lookalike actually says that if you do what she said, she will let the cat free. But I didn't make it that far to know if she actually would. But it's just, this game is just crazy and all over the place, and it sort of has that dark humor that Little Miss Fortune had, and I don't know, I enjoyed it. It has these uncomfortable moments, but also these hilarious, weird, dark humor things. I think it's a Swedish trope, if nothing else. So, gameplay. Help Fran Bow escape the asylum and reunite her with her cat, Mr. Midnight. Control the left stick, right stick, and touchpad moves the cursor around the screen. Left and right on the D-pad chooses dialogue and direction, or what room you want to go to. X is interact, the square button uses the pills, and up on the D-pad highlights clickable objects. Graphics. So this game was made in the Game Maker Studios, and the art was made by Natalia Martinsson. And the art has this airy vibe, and it's really uncomfortable. Even the normal scenes and environments in the normal world are kind of off-putting, but once you go over to the other world, when you take your medicine, everything goes over the like an edge. It's just whackers and weird. Sound and music. Yacc Martinsson made a soundtrack for this game, and there's something I can't recall even after playing the game. I only remember the dark themes when you take the pills. It's this short, disturbing loop. Otherwise, I would have preferred some voice acting like the game Little Misfortune. But if you make a game in Game Maker Studios, I guess you don't have a high budget even to hire a voice actor or actress. Easter eggs, secrets, and glitches. So this game has a lot of tie-ins to the other game Little Misfortune, even sharing themes and characters. Even the main bad guy, this big evil shadow figure, is more or less the same. And Itward even makes a cameo appearance at the end of Little Misfortune. So in conclusion I wrote, yes, play it if you like adventure games with a twist. So this game feels a bit like Alice in Wonderland, but if she was locked up in an asylum with drugs. And I guess there's a game called that, Alice the Matters Returns, I believe it was called. But this game has an interesting premise. The art style is very dark, and I like that, actually. The game has a save feature that can be turned on anytime. I don't think it has auto saves, but you can save pretty much anywhere. The bad things about the game, I would really have loved some voice acting and maybe some more polish in the art department, because some of the art directions are kind of crude. But otherwise, I really like the game, even though I talked a lot of negative about it. There's something about my brain that just sort of switch. I like dark tones and stuff, and maybe it's because Swedes generally have a darker sense of humor, I guess. So I don't know, it's this morbid weird thing that I like, I guess. So play it if you like adventure games, well, with a twist, as I said. So anyway, thanks for listening and or watching, and take care.